Last time on Darkcore Frontiers. The young Zraynian stowaway Nex faces a desperate situation aboard the damaged Nebula Nighthawk. With the ship's systems failing and time running out, Nex must use his wits and a bit of luck to escape his cell and find his robotic companion, DC. Seeking to repair his bot with the Darkcore shards, Nex has a mind-bending encounter in the docking bay, and DC speaks. Darkcore Frontiers, Season 1, The Stowaway, by Thomas Chase. Episode 15, Secrets of Zrayn. Nex stumbled back.
DC? Is that you?
DC? Ah, yes, DC. Charming fellow, though perhaps a bit simplistic, wouldn't you say? Why, at first we mistook him for a hat. What gobbledygook this little blender holds in that rattling noggin of his.
But if you're not DC, what are you?
DC spun around.
Oh yes, as we were saying, we're not your dear sweet DC. We are something far older, far more complex than your little blender here. But then again, who's to say what is complex and what is not? Complexity, simplicity, such strange and fascinating concepts.
Nex figured something must have sprung loose in his memory core. He made a grab for the bot. DC leapt back.
Please, allow us to explain before you put your curious little hands on your blender. If we are to keep conversing, you must call us something more fitting than DC. Let us think.
He spun around for a second.
Yes. Docking clamp, perhaps.
Docking clamp? Seriously?
Oh, what's this? You don't like docking clamp? That insults us. What in the 9 realms of madness is wrong with docking clamp?
Nex opened his mouth, but nothing came out.
Oh, very well, Zraynian Sproutling.
The voice sounded frustrated.
Of all the pretentious cognomens in existence, fine, DC it is. But as for what we truly are, you might call us your friend, your neighbor, your Aunt B. But really, what words do you linear beings have to describe us? None that we've found.
Nex's breath caught in his throat.
Wait, you know about Zrayn? About me?
Know about Zrayn? Why, we are Zrayn. Or at least a part of it, though your simple mind may struggle to grasp such a concept. But that's the beauty of madness, isn't it? Sense and nonsense all tangled together.
Nex's mind spun.
Wait a second. You're not a...
Speak. What is it you wish to say?
You're not the shard, are you?
Shard? You balk at docking clamp but call us shard? That insults us more. Of course we are the shard, you infant.
Wait, what? You can actually talk? You're alive?
Alive, you say? Well, what did you think, Zraynian Sproutling? We're alive, we breathe, we exist just as you do, though informed far beyond your limited comprehension. We live in the spaces between matter and energy, inside space-time itself.
Nex shook his head.
But you never said anything before.
Did it never occur to you that we've always said anything? But now something appears to be different in our alteration that makes direct communication possible.
Nex steadied himself against a container.
Okay, so... did my father know about this?
Your father. Let's see. You mean, did you know this?
No, I mean my father, Dr. Elias Novak.
We understand our dear friend, neighbor, Aunt B. We do not understand your father. Perhaps a better question is, do we know you?
I don't know. I'm Nex, from Zrayn.
Nex said, feeling kind of dumb for having to introduce himself.
Yes, but you're not just from Zrayn. You are different, your father.
Hey, come on. I'm not different or special or whatever. I'm just trying to survive here, same as anyone else would.
You possess a connection to us that defies our understanding. When you touch us, did you not feel it? The rush of power, the tingling of your very toenail.
Nex nodded, thinking back to when he'd grabbed the Darkcore shard.
Yeah, I felt like I was everywhere and nowhere at the same time.
Exactly.
The voice exclaimed, causing DC to spin in midair.
We feel it too. You reach out, and in that time we became intertwined, entangled in space and time in ways that others do not.
But I don't get it. I don't even know what happened.
Ah, yes. You were not ready, were you, to grasp the tendrils of your connection? Disorientating, isn't it? Like trying to catch shadows in a tablecloth. We find it equally bewildering speaking with you now. Look here.
DC zipped over to the waste disposal unit.
Do you comprehend this contraption? Ah, so simple we admit, yet for a fleeting time, you were with us, adrift in this curious waste disposal notebook.
Nex's head swam with questions, but a distant explosion reminded him where he was.
Look, I'd like to stay and chat, but we're kind of in deep trouble here.
Yes, this timeline grows short. Your Aunt B is in peril, and this ship is on the brink of apocalypse. You must act quickly.
Can you still get into DC's systems? We need to get to the bridge.
The voice chuckled.
Oh, we can do much more than that, my father. We can recite DC systems to you, in song if you'd like. But you're right, time is of the essence. Shall we take the scenic route?
Before Nex could say anything, DC zipped over to a maintenance shaft panel in the far corner of the bay. His processors whirred.
Hostile encounter probability in primary corridors, 83.4%. Recommendation? Utilize maintenance access ways for optimal stealth traversal.
Nex nodded. He knew the layout of the Nighthawk well enough, but traveling through the main corridors right now was risky. The access shafts, or Jeffrey's tubes as some of the old space engineers called them, were their best shot. Nex pried the panel open, revealing a narrow tunnel full of pipes, power conduits, and control panels. A metal ladder ran upward, disappearing into darkness above.
After you, my father.
Nex crawled into the shaft. The metal was hot against his hands and knees. DC followed close behind, his headlamp providing just enough light to see. Nex gripped the rungs of the ladder and started climbing. The shaft was tight, barely wide enough for Nex's backpack. As they went up, the ship's superstructure groaned under the immense forces of space. Every now and then, a burst of superheated plasma exploded from a valve, filling the shaft with ionized particles. Reaching Deck 2, DC hovered as Nex twisted the manual override on the horizontal access hatch. The shaft here was even tighter, forcing Nex to crawl on his hands and knees as they made their way forward. The walls were covered with diagnostic panels and fiber optic cabling. As he squeezed through, the voice kept up a steady stream of commentary.
My, this vessel's structural integrity field is operating at 37% below optimal parameters. It has more holes than our own tattered mind. But wait, what if? What if this ship isn't falling apart at all? What if it's merely shedding its shell to emerge as a beautiful space toaster? Now there's a fascinating thought.
Nex grunted, trying to get past a tangle of exposed wires.
Maybe you should just read DC's systems right now. Can you tell me where we're supposed to be going?
Of course. Situation room is 2 levels up, northeast quadrant.
Suddenly, a violent tremor shook the ship. Nex braced himself against the bulkhead. DC let out a low-frequency whistle, stabilizing himself in the turbulence.
Alert! Microfracture detected in hull plating, Deck 5. No immediate threat to structural integrity.
They pressed on, reaching another vertical shaft. As they climbed, the ambient temperature rose noticeably, likely due to the strain on the ship's environmental controls. Finally, they reached a small ventilation grate on Deck 1. Through it, Nex could see the situation room. And there, seated alone in the center of the holotable, looking surprisingly calm despite being restrained to a chair with hard light cuffs, was Auron Starling.
Well. Here we are at last. Your Aunt Bee, bound and bundled like a festive feast.
Nex shushed the voice. He couldn't see any guards, but that didn't mean they weren't around.
DC, do a passive scan, full spectrum analysis.
A holographic tactical display from DC's projection module showed heat signatures and energy readings.
4 hostiles detected on the bridge. 2 armed with fractal weapons, 1 individual at navigation, another occupying the command chair.
Captain Grinhelm.
He removed the grate and dropped into the room. Auron's eyes widened.
Nex,
A broad smile spread across his face.
I knew our cunning locksmith would devise a way of escape.
He looked at DC hovering beside him.
And I see you have reunited with your robot. Now this is a most fortuitous turn of events.
DC swiveled about, his sensors flickering.
I see. A reunion with your dear Aunt Bee. Did you know that ant spelled backwards is Tugda? Which coincidentally is the sound a time hiccup makes when it belches?
Auron's face drained white.
What the devil, he can speak?
Yeah, it's a whole thing. But we gotta be quiet. Those guys are right next door.
Indeed, Nex. Those scoundrels attempted to extract from me the location of the tracking device. But I remained steadfast in my resolve. They now find themselves in quite the predicament.
Yeah, but so are we. What are we gonna do now?
We must act strategically. We know our adversaries are waiting at these coordinates with no intention of executing another hyperspace jump. They dare not. The integrity of the hull would not withstand the strain. Furthermore, Admiral Fox of the Space Authority is in close pursuit.
But Auron, there's another pirate ship coming to grab the shards.
Auron rubbed his wrists as Nex turned off the cuffs.
Then we must act with the utmost haste, Nex.
What do you mean?
Our course of action is dangerous but clear. We must execute another jump into hyperspace before the arrival of the intercepting vessel.
But that's crazy. We can't do another jump. You literally just said we couldn't.
No, my young friend. I stated that they would not dare attempt another jump. I proposed that we undertake this perilous move. Our daring do will prove our salvation.
Nex shook his head.
No way. That's impossible. To do another jump, we'd need to be running the whole ship.
Ah, not impossible, Nex. We have you and your remarkably capable mechanical companion. I will let you in on a little secret. In the academy, I finished last in combat. However, I learned one thing that has served me well in both the theater and in fighting. When you possess the element of surprise, very little combat is required.
DC's optical sensor flickered, looking back and forth between them. Nex shook his head.
But Auron, we don't have any guns. We should just wait for the Space Authority to show up.
Admiral Fox is a man of considerable cunning. However, he will be proceeding with greater caution. The Space Authority will not risk traversing the shadow lanes with the same reckless abandon as these desperate villains. I can assure you with utmost certainty that they will arrive too late to be of assistance.
But Auron...
Auron held up his hand, his stubborn eyes gleaming.
Forgive me if I do not share your caution, Nex. However, we shall not risk our lives needlessly. At present, we hold the advantage, as the non-essential crew members are occupied with repairs throughout the ship.
Seeing that Nex was about to cut in, he held up his hand again.
Tut, tut. Now I suspect our captors have abandoned their fruitless attempts to extract information from me. I want you to lock down the bridge if you can. Every door except this one. I want no one to be able to enter or leave. I will do the rest.
Nex sighed and turned toward the security console in the Nebula Nighthawk situation room.
DC, lock all the doors on the bridge except this one, then shut down all the comms.
DC zipped over to the console and extended his multi-tool arm towards the data port.
Ready to interface?
Nex nodded.
Do it, DC. We're running out of time.
With a soft click, DC's interface port connected to the console. Streams of code flashed across the screen as he dug through layers of encryption and security measures. Auron kept his gaze on the door.
I will proceed to the bridge. You follow, Nex, but stay behind cover to confound their targeting systems. Follow my instructions.
DC's interface arm twitched as it worked.
Authorization bypass complete. Proceeding to access door locking mechanisms. Estimated time 20 seconds.
Another beep from the console, followed by a series of rapid clicks. DC's lights blinked in succession as he executed the final commands.
Bridge door secured.
Nex let out a big breath. This was heavy stuff, but there was no time to dwell on it.
DC, keep an eye out for anyone trying to override. Don't let them get through.
Auron gave a sharp nod.
Excellent. Time has come to bring this affair to its climax.
Nex stopped him as he turned to leave. He dug out Auron's sidearm.
It might help. Be careful, Auron.
Auron belted on his holster. He smiled, giving Nex a firm nod.
Caution is indeed our watchword, Nex. Remember what I told you about always having a trick in your back pocket. You are about to see what we in the theater refer to as a spectacle. On my signal. 3, 2, 1.
Auron pulled the manual release on the door to the bridge. Nex followed. The scene that greeted them was one of barely contained chaos. Alarms squealed, console lights blinked, and Grimhelm, Slime, Helmsman Shears, and the nav officers scrambled around trying to keep the ship from falling apart. Auron moved like a shadow up behind Captain Grimhelm, so quickly none of them even noticed him. Grimhelm, his skeletal form hunched over, turned slowly to face him. In a single motion, Auron produced Nex's EMP device and activated it directly in Grimhelm's face.
Checkmate, you dastardly fiend.
For a second, Captain Grimhelm's eye sockets flared with an unholy light. Then he started shaking all over, with sparks shooting out of his joints. His mechanical voice screeched, and then silence. The fearsome pirate captain collapsed as every electrical adhesion failed, and his structure folded into an unrecognizable pile of inert plastic and metal. Grimhelm's skull darkened, and his teeth ground together.
Jerks!
He growled, his voice box slowing.
Would that I had cast thee into the void when I had the chance.
The captain!
Slime shouted.
Oh my! Oh my!
Suddenly there was yelling from the left. It was Helmsman Shears, weapon drawn. Auron tackled Shears' ankles, knocking him to the floor. His weapon clattered across the bridge.
Pick it up, Nex.
Auron said, cool as ever. Nex jumped forward and scooped it up. Auron stepped clear of Helmsman Shears and circled around to Nex, holding up his Colt Firestorm.
Okay, don't try anything. I want everyone to step away from your console and move slowly into the situation room.
He herded them into the situation room and pulled the door shut.
Nex, see if you can lock this door.
Nex moved to the console. The controls were dead. He shook his head.
I can't get the door locked.
And keep it covered.
Fists pounded outside the sealed doors.
They'll breach that eventually, too.
Auron said, moving to the hyperspace navigation console.
Now let's see if we can make the jump.
Nex started to say something, but he never got the chance. A new alarm popped up. Auron's hands flew to the controls, bringing up the long-range sensors on the main view screen. A massive ship had just dropped out of hyperspace. There was no mistaking it.
The Hell Runner.
Auron breathed, his face pale.
Come on, Auron, get us out of here!
Auron's face turned grim as he looked up from his control panel.
I can't, Nex. All my hyperspace controls are down. It was the EMP. I'm sorry, my friend.
The imposing warship filled the viewport, blocking out the stars. Nex and Auron exchanged a look. The voice from DC let out a low whistle.
What's this? Out of the frying pan and into the toilet, are we? We do hope you've conjured up another one of your clever little schemes, or we sense the winds of madness are about to blow in a most fascinating direction.
You've been listening to Darkcore Frontiers. If you enjoyed the story, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Wondrous Legends. And if you like this production, you can help us make Season 2 by supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/wondrouslegends. Thank you for listening.